Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ben from the Sawtooth Avalanche Center with your weekend update for January 8th, 2021. As a reminder, these weekend updates are meant to supplement the forecast that we put out every morning and definitely not to replace them. We strongly encourage you to check that forecast every morning before you head out into the hills. Without any further ado, let's dive right into it. We're starting here with a pretty picture of the Pioneer Mountains because the snowpack we've got in our area is not a pretty picture. If you are just tuning in and don't know anything about what's going on in the snowpack, we can summarize it pretty quickly. We've got weak snow buried near the ground across our entire forecast area. The big difference that we're seeing from area to area is just how much snow is on top of that weak snow that we buried in mid-December. These three photos here will give you a pretty decent sense of what we're talking about as far as slab thickness. The photo on the top right, top left there, we're looking at out of bounds at Baldy, shot today. The slab there is about a foot thick. As we travel west from Baldy into a little deeper snowpack, at Dollarhide is another photo from today. We've got about 2 feet of snow on top of that. And continuing north from there, that slab stays about that thick, and then you get into the Sawtooth and it gets thicker and thicker. And up here in the top right, there we are out by Banner. This is 2 days ago, and we've got a 3 foot thick slab. As you can see pretty clearly in each of those photos, the weak snow near the ground really jumps out at you. That weak snow is a disturbing constant across our area, and the real difference that we're seeing between each area is the slab properties and the slab thickness more than anything. Now, this week we started the week with a 2-day warning. There's an intense storm on Monday. It kind of started a bit later in the day on Monday and really got rocking Monday night into Tuesday before dying off. We had an avalanche warning out for those 2 days with high danger across our forecast area. And we saw widespread natural avalanches in all of our forecast zones. We'll run through a quick few photos from some of those avalanches we saw. This is in Bassett Gulch, just to the west of Bald Mountain, above Warm Springs. It's a very large natural avalanche broke on that weak, sugary snow. Here we are a bit further north. We've traveled up towards the Baker Creek area. This is near Baker Lake, and almost every horizon line in the photo here, you see large natural avalanches. Now we're continuing north. We're in the headwaters of the Salmon River here, and again, surprise, surprise, large natural avalanches. We're jumping across the other side of the valleys here. We're in this is the Eagle Headwall, and it takes a bit to see. You might need to squint a bit, but and then the top of the photo there in the center, you can see a pretty large avalanche crown that failed a bit earlier in the storm and then was drifted in by a later wind. Continuing north along the front of the boulders, this is Lorenzo Peak here, and you can see, again, large natural avalanche, a bit fresher one in the center there. And if you look closely, further to the right, you can see some debris from an avalanche that failed earlier in the storm. Here we are above Pole Creek. We've continued along the crest of the boulders, and now we're at kind of where the boulder and the white cloud transition. Not terribly far from Galena Summit. This is another large natural avalanche. The disturbing constant in all of these, as I mentioned earlier, is that they're all failing on this weak snow that we've got buried near the ground in our snowpack. In addition to all of these natural avalanches, we've also seen a spate of human-triggered avalanches in the last 3 days. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we received reports each of those days of human-triggered avalanches, all of them being triggered remotely. When you're triggering avalanches remotely, it means you're on a slope that doesn't actually avalanche, but it's connected to a slope above you or below you or off to the side of you that does avalanche. These types of avalanches are, they're hard to predict, and they can create conditions that can be really challenging to deal with. Say you're on low-angled terrain below a steeper slope, and you're triggering an avalanche above you. That can be a very, very dangerous situation. It's impossible to predict how big of an avalanche you might trigger. It could be a small pocket, a smallish pocket like we're seeing in this photo, and it could also be the entire bowl that we're seeing in this photo. And there's no way to know what's going to happen before it happens, but we have that problem to worry about across the across the area at this point. Looking forward into the rest of the weekend, or into the weekend, we're going to see some kind of weak high pressure building for the next couple of days. We should get some clouds spilling over that weak ridge, and I think we'll get periods of clouds and sun through the weekend. And no significant snows in the forecast until Wednesday. But unfortunately, with the type of weak layer that we're dealing with, these problems that I just described and the avalanches that we just looked at photos of, they're just not going to go away. The likelihood of triggering them may decrease very slowly, and on each given day, the likelihood might be a little bit less, but the possibility remains, and that's the tricky thing to deal with these. You know, it's hard to say, oh, it's less likely today than it was yesterday, so now it's a great idea for me to go roll the dice and hanging out there in avalanche terrain. Unfortunately, the best management strategy for problems like this is to just give steep terrain a wide berth for a while. We're going to be, if we want to be operating in the backcountry and we want to be doing that successfully and for a long time, the best strategy we have is just to give the mountain space right now. We will continue to keep our eye on this week's snow. We're all out every day and digging down into it and seeing what we're finding and watching for signs of instability and avalanches. But for right now, the best thing we can do is continue to travel conservatively, to travel cautiously, and don't forget that weak snow that exists everywhere in our forecast areas. If you're on a steep slope, chances are you're going to find it below you. We're going to get probably some couple beautiful days, it looks like. I suspect we're going to be getting lots of sun and some passing clouds coming through to keep us from getting too hot. And it's easy to forget about what's buried underneath the snowpack, especially when we're riding great powder or skiing great powder. It can be easy to lose sight of that, but I hope that we're all able to keep things reined in and continue to enjoy the low angle terrain that isn't threatened from above, and hope that at a certain point we'll be able to step out into that terrain that many of us are interested in visiting. So again, this is not a replacement for the forecast. This weekend update is just something to give you a sense of what you might be finding out in the mountains. When you go out this weekend, we strongly encourage you to read that forecast every day before you head out. And as always, let us know what you're seeing out there. I can just about guarantee you that if you go out and you keep your eyes peeled, and there's been a little bit of snow in the last day or two, but you keep your eyes open, and pretty good chance you're going to be seeing avalanches that failed during the avalanche cycle from earlier in the week. Thanks for listening. Have a great night, everybody.